So one thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is car theft. Carjacking. Why somebody would hijack a car, how I can prevent it, that kind of thing. And I found it very interesting because there's like 3 reasons why someone would steal a car. There's the most common one that anyone can probably guess is, they want to make a profit off it. They want to sell it. And that's, they could sell the car itself, which that's not really a viable thing. Now you'll see, Grand Theft Auto where you'll just bring in this full car and you'll bring it to a place and they'll give you whatever cash for it. Except with VIN numbers and how the registration system works, you cannot sell a stolen car without some advanced forgery going on. That vehicle is going to have a VIN number. If you try to register that VIN number with whatever relevant Bureau of Motor Vehicles you have, then it's going to come up like, hey, this isn't right, and then, oh, no, I have a stolen vehicle. Whereas there's a lot more money to be made with selling the parts. Now, cars are one of that weird instance to where the individual pieces are going to cost a lot more than the whole. So if you were to try to buy all of the parts to a car and build it, you're going to spend God knows how much more just to do that. And the same works backwards of selling these parts. You could sell a whole car for whatever price, or you could sell all of the individual pieces for so much more. And especially if this car no longer has like manufacturer-made parts, so the parts are becoming less and less common, mechanics are going to have to spend more to get these parts. And that's how a chop shop would work. People would bring a stolen car into this chop shop, they would strip it all for valuable parts, and they would give it to shady mechanics who don't care where they get their parts from, or, auto stores as well. There's a lot of money to be made there. Of course, I don't do this. I don't condone any illegal activities, but that's a very big one. But I thought about the others as well, like joyriding, for example. Somebody who doesn't have a car, or maybe they see a car that's so much more nice than theirs is, and they just want to ride that bad boy all night, and that's exactly what they'll do. They'll get this car, they'll steal it, they'll joyride it around town for an evening, and then just dump it somewhere. These people, these are some of the less nice people. I have negative thoughts about these people because it's so mean. Like, it's such a rude thing to do that you can inconvenience somebody's life this hard just because you want to enjoy yourself a little more one night. But it really, just get an Uber. And I know, like, taxis and ride-hailing things are new now. Not taxis. Taxis have been around forever. You really want to get around, get a freaking taxi. Don't be stealing cars. I digress. The third one being crime. Let's say you want to rob a convenience store or even a bank. You aren't going to want to use a getaway car that can be traced back to you, because then it'll get traced back to you. You want to use someone else's car. So the most logical conclusion is to steal a car, use it for the crime, and then dump it somewhere. And that makes sense. That way it's tied to some random person and not really something that can go back to the crime committer. And that also sucks. All of these reasonings suck. You shouldn't do any of them, but such is the purpose of crime, is they suck. So if these reasons exist in the world, then the next thought would be, how can I prevent it? And fortunately, the way carjacking has been prevented over time has really improved. For example, let's look at a 1994 Honda Accord, right? That's going to have a regular metal key and a car alarm system. Well, the problem with car alarm systems is that they don't work anymore. It's not like they're not going to make sound. It's that when you hear a car alarm, you no longer think, oh no, I better go check it out. Granted, there are people who still go like, I should check my car. And that's good. That's what the purpose of car alarms are for. But nowadays, we've gotten so used to hearing cars. If you live in an urban environment or you live in an apartment complex, you're going to hear car alarms and you're going to be more annoyed and inconvenienced by these than you are going to be concerned for the car's safety. And obviously, that's a problem. That shows that this method isn't effective anymore. So if you can't make a noise to try to prevent a car theft, then the best you can do is just make it without of their capabilities. For example, now we've got chips in our keys, so you can't just jam a screwdriver into a carport and try to think that that's somehow going to work. Or you can't just get underneath the hood and then what's that thing called? The dashboard. I knew that word. Foolish me. You can't just get underneath the dashboard and then pull out 2 wires and touch them to make the car start. No, you need a special electronic chip inside your key to start your car. Now, this is inconvenient for us, sure, because if I want a new key, then I need to shell out $200-$300, which is outrageous pricing in my opinion. But that's not what I'm here to rant about. But these chips, they make it a lot more difficult for someone to steal your car. And they're even getting beyond the idea of chips. There's vehicles that they don't even have a physical key. They just have like the little plastic knob that plugs right into where the ignition would be, and that is your key. And then I've seen vehicles where you just have a key fob on your person, keep it in your pocket, whatever. As long as the car detects that it's within range, it'll be like, oh, you have our key, go ahead and drive me, friend, because cars talk like that. And that's really cool because these are very difficult to imitate concepts. You're not going to see some guy, chop shopping cars know how to replicate wireless technology to that degree. And that's fantastic. But let's say even for whatever reason they're able to get the car started, well, there's vehicles and they have a lot of engine immobilization systems built in. Things that, like, if the car detects, hey, this wasn't started the way it was supposed to start, then it'll cut off the engine. And that's really cool. It's like a secondary measure of defense. You'll start driving and then it'll be like, oh, this is wrong, and then the car just won't run. And it kind of sucks because it's expensive to get that fixed afterwards, but it'll stop your car from getting stolen, and that's ideally better. I'd rather pay a lot for replacing a broken whatever of my car than having to buy a new car. But let's say for whatever reason you have let's say you have an old car and it doesn't have these fancy chips, or its engine immobilizations, it's just got a noisy alarm that doesn't even work. Well, then there's additional systems that you can do, like you may know of a system called LoJack. Now, LoJack used radio frequencies to track your vehicle, and because it used radio, it could, catch you underground or in bad weather. It doesn't have to worry about GPS or satellite technology. It's radio. And that was really cool because it could find things fairly successfully. I believe last report they had was like 90% success rate in recovering vehicles, and that's really impressive. Considering like how often cars are stolen, that's a good number to have if more vehicles had LoJack. Except modern cars are getting more technologically advanced and they don't really need LoJack. They have their own system. They've got built-in GPS and all that, and that system can be tied back to maybe Blue Star or some kind of manufacturer service that still is provided to allow this cool process. And so a lot of cars are connected to a grid in some way that will allow you to track it down if it goes away somewhere. And that's cool that they have that. It makes an additional level of security towards if your car is stolen. And then, of course, there are other methods for if you don't have these things. For example, I believe it was Arizona. They have this program called the Watch My Car program, where you'll sign up and you'll give your car information and your contact information and all that. And I believe if your car is seen from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., they'll just pull it over. They don't need a reason to other than it's around at this time. And that's because that's when a lot of cars are stolen, is during this time. So they'll pull this car over and they'll check to make sure that whoever's driving it has exclusive permission to drive it. And that's really cool. That'll suck for me if I was to ever drive at midnight for whatever reason. Not that I'm really out and about that late anyway, so there's use behind this. But it'll also be like, if you're within 1 mile of the border, I think, you can get pulled over, so that your car isn't being used to transfer illicit goods, that type of deal, and that's really cool. So, car theft is still super common because there's a lot of valuable cars, there's a lot of valuable parts, and then there's a lot of people just wanting to be bad people and do it for their own selfish gain, and that can't be helped. But what can be helped is the fact that it is so much harder to steal a car nowadays than it used to be, and it is so much easier to keep track of this car even if it does get stolen, and that's very reassuring. That said, if I was to give away any kind of advice or something to glean from all of this, it's that if you do hear a car alarm, just go ahead and check. It can't hurt to just walk over to a nearby window and look around. You might find somebody breaking into someone's car and, stop them, and that will lead to, making somebody's absolute day, make their week, maybe make their month, because of how much trouble you have just saved them from having to experience, and that's really cool. Anyway, this has been CarMind. I'm Branden with CarMod.net. Thanks for watching.